On this episode, we talk about the new Wyatt Family, Brock Lesnar on the cover of WWE 2K17, Roman Reigns still in the triple threat match, and more now on Byte That. Hey gang, what is going on? Welcome in. You are listening to episode 149 of Byte That's weekly wrestling podcast, the location where we do talk about that, which is the WWE. So thank you for tuning in and checking out the show every single week. We are available every single Tuesday night on all the available podcast platforms, including our YouTube channel, Byte That Cast, where we do have a ton of content, including our mock WWE draft, NXT ideas, and tons more. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and as always, I am joined by Ryan McNulty from Boston, Mass. No Savage. No Savage. It's done. What?
Where are you from?
The Shining Stars are done. They're done.
That doesn't mean this joke is. Where are you from?
From the Shining Star of the Caribbean. Are you happy, Keith, who hails from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada?
I am very content.
Well, thank you for cutting the Savage. I think it's about time.
We were cutting everything off. The Shining Stars, the Savages. Keith is still Mackenzie, though. Let's never forget that. Never forget. Now, guys, we are just a week away from a very special podcast, episode 150. We've been talking about this for a long time. Next week, it's going to be a milestone for the podcast, for Byte That as a whole, so I'm really looking forward to that. And we're also getting closer to the WWE Draft, which is taking place on July 19th. Keep in mind, we are recording the podcast that week, just a day after, so July 20th. So you're going to get the podcast on Wednesday night. So don't be afraid. Don't cry. That thing is going to happen. But now let's talk about what we have seen. So Monday Night Raw did happen. There are some things that raise speculation whether or not we are going to get another world championship, which it does seem very likely. But as tradition, let's bring up people's responses for their overall reactions of Raw. This week, guys, I'd say it was the most mixed. Did you see the ratings before I unveil it? No?
I did take a look. It looked all over the place, but mostly good to above average.
Yep, and yes. I agree with the ratings. It was a very in between the two, let's say, mixed ratings.
I would lean more towards good than bad, I think.
Yeah, so with our patented out of 4 rating system, 18% gave it a 1 out of 4 with Awful Waffle, 32% gave it a 2 out of 4 average show, 38% said 3 out of 4 was good, and 12% gave it a 4 out of 4, stating it was great. So if you notice, it was very much down the middle, mostly saying it was a good show, average, and great. You know, we got a couple of people there, so keep in mind we always do this every week on the Byte That Cast Twitter. It's just like a cool little thing to know outside of the box. What did people think about Raw? So kicking it off with Mr. McNulty, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, like I said, I thought Raw was pretty good. There was more to like than I think there wasn't. It was very interesting just how they handled the whole Roman Reigns thing and how they decided, you know, what are we going to do with this feud? And how can we kind of spin our wheels until Battleground? So I thought the whole AJ Cena thing was a great idea for that as a way to kind of be like, hey, we're still talking about the main event while leaving one player out of it.
And I think there was the key word, spinning your wheels. That's exactly what this Raw felt like to me. It was a good show overall, but if you take a step back and think about everything that happened, they did just kind of spin their wheels the whole show. All things considered, not much really happened on Raw.
Well, it's what a lot of people are complaining. You know, you have the draft, so you can't continue a lot of storylines because you may split them up. The only real thing we've gotten from this has been the reference where, hey, Zayn may end up in one show and no one's on the other, right? Aside from that, there's not a lot else going on, but let's talk about one of the little details. So there is the lower third whenever a guy comes out, right? Last week, Dean Ambrose came out as our WWE World Heavyweight Champion. This week, he is just the WWE Champion. No World, no Heavyweight. So, I mean, not to say this confirms or not, things like this don't magically happen overnight, especially when WWE spent years forcing us to say WWE World Heavyweight Champion. So how do you guys feel now that, as we've talked before, we preferred one championship on both shows, but knowing that they're going to be more full-fledged, and now this is going to happen? Are you happy? Are you concerned? Are you worried? Do you want to cry?
I want to cry. I actually legitimately want to cry. And I like how you said these things don't happen overnight. They actually quite literally happen overnight. They're just like, hey, guess what? It's WWE Champion now, and we're not going to say anything about it. I just love that's how WWE does things. They're just like, well, you know what? We're not going to say a damn thing about it. We're just going to refer to it as this from now on and pretend like that's how we've always called it. Because
what's a diva? What's a diva?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, they were a little... That was
something
one thing where they were
butterfly.
actually pretty straightforward about that. Yeah, so instead of just being like, hey, we're going to refer to him as the WWE champion, I guess that they just want to warm us up to it before they're like, hey, this is the world heavyweight title now that's going to happen on SmackDown. But names aside, there's it looks like we're going to get the two belts, one on SmackDown, one on Raw. And a podcast, New Age Insiders, I think they pointed out the best, where it's like, what sport has two champions? You know, in the NFL, you have the AFC champion, the NFC champion, but they fight it out to have a Super Bowl champion. In wrestling, how is it really a good idea to have two champions? You know, someone goes to the media and they're like, you know, you're the champion. He was like, well, you know, I'm a champion, but this guy over here, he's a champion too. You know, it's like Little League, everyone gets a trophy mentality. I just wish there was one central champion, and then, you know, hey, US title on SmackDown, Intercontinental title on Raw, they can kind of be the brand champions, and then you have a guy at the top who is the champion. I just feel like having the guy, for lack of a better term, is important to have in anything that's mimicking a sport. You know what I mean?
No, I completely get it. And a couple of years ago, I would have been perfectly okay with what you're saying in regards to WWE, right? But based on everything that's happening with the network, all the interviews that have come out with Vince, basically, you know, people are talking about Vince, that he wants WWE to be the universe, literally the WWE universe. So now I'm assuming, like, you know, the counter argument to your point where there's one champion, that would be the case if they treated the shows as one thing. But I believe it's going to be Raw. It's going to be SmackDown. This is just a rumor. Justin LaBar, he's a reporter, but on Sports Talk Radio, he apparently stated that the brands are going to get their own respective new sets, and that the world titles are not going to be coming back, that we're going to get a new title that's going to be in there. So which would make sense, because honestly, like, how do you shoehorn back in a title that's left twice, right? Because that title went away, like, after the Alliance and all that, and then it was brought back for Triple H, only to then be taken away, and that's like, hey, third time's the charm, right? It just makes it second rate.
But it almost feels like they learned nothing from the last brand split. Like, yes, you've got those two major titles, but just because everybody's looking for who's the top guy in the company at large, because it's still always going to be Raw and SmackDown are part of the WWE, the big company. You're always going to have one title perceived as more prestigious than the other. So you're almost diminishing that brand, or at least one of the brands, by not having just that one major champion.
No, you make a great point, because no matter what, whatever the important show was, that always felt like the bigger title. You know, the WWE title for a while actually felt secondary to the World Heavyweight Championship.
Absolutely.
When Triple H had the championship, or, you know, Batista or whatever, and then when JBL had it on SmackDown, the WWE title did feel like the secondary title. And then it's like, don't even get me started when the brand split just kind of dissolved, how secondary that championship felt, and it felt completely pointless. There was a time where it's like, yeah, the two championships did kind of work, but like you said, Keith, it's automatically going to devalue one of the brands, because eventually one title is just going to be seen as the title, so you might as well just have one to begin with.
It all comes down to brand awareness, and I'm not referring to Raw or SmackDown. I'm talking about a company. When you have brand awareness, people know John Cena, right? So as much as WWE may try, whichever show John Cena is on, that title is going to be the main one. There's just no doubt about it. You've been developing that mindset for fans across the nation, across the world for years, and then to all of a sudden go like, yeah, now they're both equal. No, they're not. Because it's going to take you years. It took, how many people still to this day refer to WWE as WWF? I still get comments like that. People still calling it WWF. If that still happens, and that ended in what, early 2002, it's going to be a couple of years before you can actually tell anybody SmackDown is the main show. Because they're just going to laugh in your face, even if it is the best show out there, puts out the best entertainment. It's an hour less than Raw. But yeah, let's just see what ends up happening.
And never mind the fact that it's just going to make the show, in a way, harder to digest. Because they kind of pride themselves on, oh, you know, we want to explain everything so a casual person can tune in and know what's going on. Well, when you have two brands with two separate championships, are you gonna have two women's titles, two tags titles, all of that going on? It's like nobody's really gonna know who this is about fighting each other and who's the best. And how can you do this if you just have like equal champions on equal sides? I don't know. It just makes everything more complicated.
And all this being said, they could call it the WWE World Heavyweight Championship next week, and it would all be for nothing. You never know.
I'm going to give out a really bold statement before moving on to Roman Reigns. I just thought of this. What if, and once again, the conversation's not for now, just leave that marinating for a couple of years. They're preparing SmackDown to eventually become the first show that's ever network exclusive. Because if you build up two brands that are on the same network, like USA Network, which they are, you can in 5 years say, you know, I'm just going to take one out because as we continue to improve as a company, one of these shows is just going to be exclusive to over here. You still have the other one. I'm talking about 5 to 10 years. This is not a 1 year
they gonna make
Superstars
money?
Network exclusive?
Okay, let's be real. When I mean show,
I know.
Why
Why would you want to go to the network when being on USA is way better? You're making advertising revenue. Like I think at the last quarter meeting or whatever they had, I don't know. Meltzer reported though that I know I'm pulling dirt sheets out of my ass right now, but Meltzer basically said NXT loses money, but it's a big attraction for the network. But they don't really make anything off of that. And that is a pretty popular show on the network, but it doesn't make them any money at all. But
That's
you can obviously see why they do it.
That's such a crutch that eventually needs to get kicked out from under them, though, because if they want the network to be this all-including thing, eventually the main shows do have to show up on the network in some capacity.
And here's
not
the deal.
just like 3 weeks later.
And here's the deal. If 8 years ago you told me the number one YouTuber would be called PewDiePie, who does videos about playing games and is a multimillionaire, nobody would believe you. Times change way faster now than they ever did before. And I'm talking about 5 to 10 years. This is not a 2-year plan. They're going to end up doing it. Because otherwise, they would have never taken pay-per-view off. If we want to go by this, they would have never taken pay-per-view off. They would have just said, well, let's just stay on TV. They took that off. They started telling people, hey, if you spend $60, you're stupid. Like, why are you spending that? Spend money on the network.
You could realistically, though, hypothesize that, okay, instead of having 150,000 people spend $60, we could get 1 million people to spend $10. I think that's what they were looking at. And that's, a pretty decent plan of, okay, well, we're going to charge less, but we're going to get way more people. They need to, if they figure out a proper way to monetize the network, they need more monetization from the network outside of just the $10.
Okay, so make it 15 or make it 20 and offer the main shows.
Well, you chalk it up. Well, yeah, I mean, you got to walk that line. And right now they make a lot of money from network TV.
Let's do this right now. I have this really old 1 gigabyte USB drive that I do nothing with. It's on my desk right now. It's SanDisk brand. For those who want to know, it's silver. I'm going to put this podcast in MP3. It's going to be in there. And in 5 to 10 years, whether Byte That exists, whatever the case happens, we're going to listen to this and see who was right. How's that?
I can shake on that because I'm on your side.
Thank you, Keith. Now, Ryan, since you're all motivated, I feel the passion this episode. Talk to me about how you feel about how WWE managed the Roman Reigns situation. They addressed it right off the bat with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose.
I thought they handled it well. I mean, Rollins coming... I didn't think they were going to go that far. Rollins coming out, even bringing up the tweet and just kind of trashing Reigns. I thought it was the perfect way to do it. Like, address the elephant in the room. Don't pretend it's not there. If you do, the crowd's just going to be chanting all night, like, where's Roman or something, you know, some sort of joke at Roman. And I think they just did it the best way possible, which is address the scenario and then come up with creative ways to keep that title feud busy until Roman gets back.
Agreed. They did the best with what they had. They made the whole thing about Dean and Seth opposed to just focusing on Roman. Just they kind of threw Roman to the sideline and made it about what's going on between Dean and Seth all in one promo. I don't think they could have handled it any better than they did.
Yeah, every now and then they do stuff like this that it almost upset me because I didn't have a counter argument. Like, you had Rollins come out, he calls him out, and Dean Ambrose does not give importance. Like, yeah, he's still in the match, and AJ comes out, everybody comes out. Where's Roman Reigns? I don't care.
Geez, you're getting mad about the fact they did something good. You can't please everybody, apparently.
Damn you, WWE, for being smart. But I really like that, and even though, like, this Raw, like, I don't think a lot of people give credit to how different it is, like the beginning. Because even though we got the traditional thing where, hey, everybody wants a championship match and now everybody's going to get a shot, when you look at the landscape of the people that are there, AJ Styles is once again blended so freaking well with the roster. Like, he's become the guy. I don't mean that in like a funny haha Roman Reigns kind of way, but he's become the guy that has these outstanding matches. The crowd, even though they were booing him, after a while they started cheering for him because he's really good at what he's doing right now in WWE. And like the fact that Cena is now officially up to that franchise level. He's brought this up before, not Shane Douglas, but just as a whole, John Cena is this dynasty, this franchise in the company. And now you guys can't take me seriously. But how do you feel about that? That he is officially in that Undertaker tier where he's in there, but like, I don't even know. Like, it feels weird to put him in a storyline or not in a storyline or in the title picture or not because he's John Cena.
CM Punk's chain of promos from the Summer of Punk became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Really did.
And those words were...
or you're not the Yankee. No, you're not the Red Sox. You're the Yankees or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't know if he's quite Undertaker status because that is... I feel like you have to have the limited appearances to kind of go with that. Because that's like a spectacle, like a feature, kind of like Brock Lesnar is, you know? If you're showing up every week, it's weird, but you're not quite there yet until you show up less. And then it feels like a big deal. But obviously, yeah, Cena is...
He's like Triple H level.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's exceeded Triple H level.
But once again, I feel like the Triple H, he only wrestles so much a year that it's like an attraction thing. He's not attraction level yet in that way.
So Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, yes, exactly. He's Shawn Michaels towards the end of his career.
Damn. So we got 2 straight WrestleMania matches before he retires.
It
now.
took a lot of guesses, but we found the right example.
You know the crazy part about this conversation? Much like WWE, we started talking about Reigns, and it stopped becoming about Reigns really easily.
I'm telling you, man, he's this generation's Lex Luger.
Like, man, it could be true. This Raw, apparently ratings went down, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to really, overanalyze that part. Even though this wasn't the greatest Raw, yes, a lot of storylines didn't progress. Yes, the draft is the reason for that. I in no way felt like there was anybody missing in that show. You could have told me that was the roster, and I would have believed you, considering we just lost the number 1 guy for months.
I mean, we lost the number 1 guy for a month before WrestleMania, and it didn't really feel any different.
True.
But that is kind of how WWE is nowadays, though. If one person's missing, it doesn't kill the show, because there's not a lot of people on the roster who are just like, they don't have like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know what I mean? Where it's like people are tuning in exclusively for that one person. I mean, I'm sure some people are, but WWE is just kind of, it's the whole, like, they've just kind of brought a few people up to a level, but nobody's like in the stratosphere, you know what I mean? To be that huge attraction where the show can always go on without one piece and it still feels okay.
Although I do like the element that everybody is sort of on the same level. We talked about how between the Dana Bryan storyline and a bunch of stuff, nobody seemed like they could become the next champion. It was always like Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns. But now you look at the pool and there are a lot of options, largely thanks to the draft being around the corner. But, you know, when you have matches like AJ and AJ, Cena, Rollins, all these guys that wrestled for an opportunity on Raw, I personally love that to the point where I tuned in. I watched all of Raw. I had an idea of where everything was going to go, but we had intriguing matches. I really enjoyed the AJ Ambrose match. Cena Rollins was awesome. Rollins frog splashing and missing is like hilarious because he falls flat like a pancake. But it's some really good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, anytime they could, even if it's like, okay, we know Cena and AJ aren't going to get inserted into the match, but like I always harp on the fact, if you have matches with consequences, then people will care. Just have some sort of stakes involved instead of just these random matches that we're asking ourselves, why am I watching this? What is the point?
Exactly. Now, something I want to bring up quickly, because it involves The Miz, but I'm not here to talk about The Miz. I just want this excitement level. I want, let's bring back the out of 4 rating scale for this. There was a mystery opponent for The Miz, and people were like, it's going to be Shinsuke. It's going to be finally Finn Balor, right? Like, after
Did
months.
people really think that?
Yes, there were them tweets. I was reading them tweets.
Okay.
But gang, he's back. Not Matt Hardy. We're talking about Masked Kane. Yes.
Demon Kane.
Yes.
Stay on brand here.
Demon Kane. Yes. Man, that excitement level, Ryan, I feel it. It's there, right? Right?
Oh, yeah.
A solid 0.5 out of 4.
It didn't really annoy me that much because I was not expecting Finn Balor or Nakamura to show up. So I wasn't really let down.
I know, same here. It was just like, okay, who's this going to be? Oh, it's Kane. Cool. I'll keep making my dinner.
It's gotta be Kane.
Now, does this mean Kane is back? As in not for this ha-ha moment, but he may actually go for the championship, like the IC title.
He's probably running
something.
the Big Show schedule where he shows up for feuds and then disappears for like 2 months.
I mean, they definitely started developing a feud between Kane and The Miz, and if that's a direction that they go for Battleground, it wouldn't surprise me, but does that mean Kane? You know, with the draft coming up, Kane seems like somebody that'll probably get drafted to kind of be a tentpole of a show, like that middle segment.
I mean, hey, it's a good spot to be in, right? And that does have legs, because Dana Bryan Kane was very entertaining. I do think they have something they can do with Kane The Miz. I think it's just when it boils down to the match, right? After all it's said and done, after all the backstage segments, all the promos, I just don't care about Kane wrestling. It's always the same thing, right? So hopefully it doesn't go into that. So let's switch to easily my favorite part of Raw. Because I know that we've been talking about this Wyatt Family New Day storyline for a while, and some of us were skeptical more so than not.
Like
I'm
week? Because it had started last week.
Exactly. But in the world of wrestling, a week is like a year. But I did say last week I was loving it. I was looking forward to this. And this week, bump that up. I am loving this so far. It's working. And not just that. This storyline is addressing Ryan's issue. I want you to this was the most threatening / real that we've had Bray Wyatt in the storyline since...
probably John Cena, I would say.
Yeah,
because his promos actually made sense and they weren't just like babbling on. You know, he's talking about how the New Day is just they're trying to paint this illusion for fans when there's a real reality out there that's harsh. Like, you're just telling people lies to make them feel better. Like, his words actually kind of meant something, and it was really cool. It was one of his best promos in a long time.
It made me feel real good about Bray Wyatt. It brought me back to those feelings I had before John Cena destroyed him. And like Juan, I am in love with this and can't wait to see where they go.
And this is why I love wrestling so much. You put this in paper, and it feels like it should flop, right? Like the New Day, I was going to say Wyatt Family. The New Day are making fun of the Wyatt Family. Like, Luke Harper's not there yet. Woods is dressing up like Harper. Like, poor Strowman. Like, he is there, man. He is there. Yet you still don't even dress up as Braun Strowman.
But with Braun Strowman, you can't go down the ramp going, yeah. It was the little
amazing.
Subtle thing, and I loved it so much.
But even from that little intro, like backstage, right? Big E going, we're here. They're able to, we're going to be talking about this pretty soon in an SRT, like the art of an entrance, right? You're able to take these key elements from an entrance that everybody knows and loves, and you put your own spin into it. And I still love this whole thing that's happening with Xavier Woods, where they're not being all out obvious with what's happening. Like, he was just silent, right? Bray Wyatt calls him out. Like, he doesn't, say anything. I believe it was Renee Young interviewed the New Day afterwards for a YouTube video. He says nothing. And they just actually are a little bit concerned about him. So what do you guys think about that now that we've gotten part 2 of Woods?
I think it just shows what I love about the New Day most, and that's how dynamic they are, how they adjust to every situation and they don't get old. Like, even during that promo in the ring, the New Day got real there when they started defending the power of positivity. It wasn't just jokes and laugh. Like, Big E's like, this is why we do this. It's not just fun. And it just shows how much the New Day is able to adapt and change. And that's why they're so awesome.
Yeah, and I like that they're not just laughing and downplaying the Wyatt family, where it's like Xavier Woods is acting legitimately scared of them. So it's interesting to see where they're going to go with it. If he's going to, like, get possessed or something from Bray Wyatt, and he's going to, like, beat up the New Day or something. They could go a lot of ways with it. And it's really cool that they're doing something different.
I'm just hoping that the brand split doesn't mess this up, because I would love a 6-man tag scenario where Woods just can't wrestle. Like, he can't, like, even get close to Wyatt. So it's this whole inspiration thing. And the last thing I want to bring up here is that we've seen a new level of the New Day, where before I think people were thinking they were just obnoxious. Here we saw that they're a character. Like, it's like if Keith acted ridiculous in front of somebody just to make them laugh. Like, that's not Keith. It's Keith trying to pump you up. Like, New Day goes out there to pump you up. But if they need to be serious, they can. And that right there opened up Pandora's box to thousands of options. So I know some people are online have been saying lately New Day's getting stale. I love this idea.
Those people are wrong. Sorry.
In New Day, they really have... Their gimmick is ridiculous, which means they can really just get away with anything. They can literally do anything. They made their character so good that they could do a time machine segment.
And nobody bats an eyelash. They can come out of a giant cereal box dressed as Saiyans, and everybody thinks that's normal.
They knew how to set themselves up for success, because they can get away with literally anything.
And if we go by the Shield route, where the Shield was made from day one and they split up and they did great, I just hope the same thing happens for the New Day, except just never break up. Just be old 80-year-old dudes trying to shake your booties, and then their hips break. They just do that part. They never get to the other part. Ryan's looking at it as funny. Let's just talk quickly about the WWE 2K17 cover superstar. Now, some people are saying Finn Balor. Finn Balor's in everything. Apparently, if anything is going to happen, Finn Balor must be involved. But no, it was the Beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar, on the cover of 2K17. Guys, your reactions?
Awesome. You know I love Brock Lesnar, and I think that's a badass cover to that game. I hope it means that they're going to... okay. I don't want a Brock Lesnar showcase. Let's start with that. I don't want some weird showcase mode with Brock Lesnar. I hope this means that they're going to expand out of it. They were leaning a lot on Suplex City, so maybe they go that route. Like, hey, welcome to Suplex City. You gotta wrestle your way to the top, kid. Or something like that. I hope that's where it goes.
I think if Wade Barrett was still there, he would say he had some bad news for you.
Is it already confirmed that there's Lesnar showcase mode?
No, but I mean, historically, you know...
The cover star has had a showcase mode.
Or in some way, like when The Rock was there, you know, they focused on the WrestleMania stuff, like the Attitude Era stuff. Whatever happens on the cover for the last 4 years or so, or let's say when 2K took over, it does seem to have a big impact on the game. And, like, it would be interesting because, I mean... If you timeline when Brock Lesnar was there, you know, he started with the Hardys, which would mean the Hardy Boys came back because they can't remove that, right? And there are a lot of storylines.
They made Mike Tyson white. Remember, they made him white and called him the Enforcer. They could do anything.
But little details, even Kurt Angle. I mean, it seems like whatever happens in a game now, like Brock Lesnar was the pre-order bonus for a game. Boom, he comes out. So who knows? Like this could lead to many things. It would be
very, very tough to do without Kurt Angle.
I'm trying to remember where I read this, but I read somewhere online with an interview with Paul Heyman that he mentioned that he did a lot of voiceover and stuff for the game this year. So I'm hoping that means that leads to something more than just a showcase.
Yeah. Anyway, it definitely seemed like the smartest pick for cover. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be my pick, but Lesnar is obviously one of those mainstream recognized guys. So someone goes into a game store, they're going to recognize Brock Lesnar over most other people on the roster. So that's why it's no surprise we've had John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and now Brock Lesnar. You know, even putting Roman Reigns on there, he's not at that level yet that people are going to recognize him. And it's a way smarter pick to do someone like Brock Lesnar.
And holy crap, does Brock Lesnar need to win at UFC 200?
Yes.
Imagine if he loses.
Oh my God, is it going to be the... which EA games have that problem, or which sports game that whoever's on the cover tends to get injured? Madden? Is it the Madden curse?
Madden. Yeah. Don't remind me of that, because they put Rob Gronkowski on the cover this year, and that could spell disaster.
Is that
the numbers don't lie?
Does he football?
I know that name from the league.
He's the tight end for the New England Patriots.
Oh, that thing. I mean,
and he has a history of injuries, which makes it even worse.
Oh God, Keith, don't ever be on a cover, man. We need you.
All right.
We need the power. Boy. The power of negativity must be in I almost said Fight Night. Why? I would bite that.
Drink it in, man.
Super kick and Ryan just miss completely. No,
I'm not flexible.
Damn it. Okay,
we need
guys.
to get back on the rails here.
Yes, let's get back on track here. A couple of announcements. As I mentioned a little earlier, we have a really cool video coming up down the pipeline on the YouTube channel where we talk about wrestling entrances, the art of the wrestling entrance. We had an SRT, a Square Roundtable, which is the show where we break down one specific topic, and we had one about wrestling theme songs. So this is sort of words are coming out. Sort of a follow-up is what I meant to say. So you can check that out on the channel. Over the weekend, I posted a video for NXT talking about some ideas. What if Sheamus went down to NXT, or Dolph Ziggler, or Fandango? Bring back Johnny Curtis. And you can also get our shirt at whatamaneuver.net. If you would like to support the podcast, it comes in purple, it comes in black, and it probably comes in your size. Now, next week, keep in mind, that was bad. That was bad. Woo.
I know that was going somewhere dark.
Man, I tried. But if you're still listening, listen next week. Next week is going to be all kinds of crazy. Episode 150. We've been doing 150 episodes of this thing here we call Byte That. That is ridiculous. And next week, we take the next step. Many next steps, as a matter of fact. New website, Byte That 2.0, because we needed to spice things up a little bit. New ideas, new concepts. So during the end of that show, it's going to be sort of a Byte That celebration.
You never know. We might fulfill some fantasies.
Oh my God, no. Okay.
Oh,
now before I start crying here, any quick comments about Zayn Owens? Because that does seem to be the deeper storyline that's still happening. That, as I mentioned at the top of the show, they're teasing that they may get split up.
I'm looking forward to seeing them wrestle each other at Battleground, just because they probably will get split up. Give them one last big showdown, make people want more from a feud between these two. Have Zayn go to Raw, Owens go to SmackDown, or vice versa, and just leave it hanging in the air. I actually really think this feud is cool.
Yeah, I really like the intensity from Sami Zayn in the promos. I mean, that's a side of him I don't think we've seen quite enough yet, and it really shows. I mean, when it comes down to it, Sami Zayn can bring the thunder on the mic when he needs to, and I really like that. So I just love the intensity of these guys, and yeah, I think like he said, it's best let them clash one more time before you split them up. So the next time they run into each other, it's going to mean that much more.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say I was a little bit wrong about this. If you recall on the show, I talked about how I wasn't a huge fan that they were doing this right off the bat. This is Zayn's real big storyline, his first storyline in the main roster. And, they're doing it with the best option for him. But in many ways, we've been able to see a lot more character development from him. Like you mentioned, Ryan, this whole seriousness to him. We saw some of that in NXT with Owens. And now we get to see that here, and it was believable, right? And it's not often you get to see a character like this where his character is like Zayn doesn't really have a character. Let's be honest. He's a really good guy. He is your friend that becomes a wrestler, and I would say that now, people can take him serious as a wrestler. Like if something goes down, if shit goes down, he's able to fend for himself. He's able to really get annoyed or pissed off. He has different emotions rather than I'm going to dance to ska, right? Because I think some people were a little bit concerned about that. Now with Owens, what do you guys feel about this? Where it seems like Zayn has gone upward with the seriousness, but Owens has, I won't say become jokey, but he's become less serious as a whole, I would say.
I mean, Kevin Owens is just Kevin Owens. He can drop or switch up on a dime, and it's perfectly fine. So I don't see this as any big change to Kevin Owens' character. It's just Owens adapting to the situation, which is what Owens does best.
Yeah, I agree. And I always love it when Owens is just a huge troll in interviews and stuff. Like at Money in the Bank, I think the interview with Chris Jericho, like that was absolutely hilarious. So I think Owens has that kind of range where he can do the jokey stuff, but he's not usually like laugh, like, you know what I mean? Like his jokes and stuff, it's still like him kind of complaining. It's not like him getting all ha ha funny, you know what I mean? So he's still kind of always keeping that like serious guy. It's just the stuff he's saying is kind of ridiculous.
And it works. I'm looking forward to
absolutely.
this is, aside from the Women's Championship feud, this is the only real feud that feels like should conclude before the draft. Everything else seems to like, hey, let's find out what happens after the draft. But this feels like, yeah, get closure at Battleground and move on to other stuff. So I'm starting to get, this is where you come to the realization that, you may have guys that you love that are in one show, and then ones that you love that are on the other show. Time management is not a thing, or limits. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a weird thing here. Yes, in a Byte Club, we got a lot of awesome questions from you. Some of them sort of reminding us about things that have happened, the past couple of years, and now we're going to get a chance to really look back. So we brought up the questions a little bit earlier because we're going to be having some discussions about that. You can always send them on Twitter, ByteThatCast, with the hashtag AskBT. Shoot us an email, bytethatcast@gmail.com. Or if you're enjoying this experience on YouTube, first hashtag blame Keith and then drop a comment on the latest podcast episode. So Keith, what do we blame you for?
Blame me for everything. Anything that's ever gone wrong. I'm probably partially to blame. So do it.
This is not a good transition for the first question, man. Not at all. No.
Yeah.
You should have thought that a little bit better, but
You should have thought that through a little more.
Hey,
You're just gonna, what am I to blame? Oh, lead that into the first question. This one isn't on me. You know what? This is all about
you had an
hashtag
option
blame
to
one.
Hey, you could shoot me down, man.
Yeah, well, you know what? You could shoot me down and I'll get back up.
Oh, man.
Still not good. You know what? We're gonna save that question. Our first question comes from Monica G, who asks, question for the podcast. All right. Monday, June 27th, which would be this Monday that just happened, is the 5-year anniversary of CM Punk dropping the infamous pipe bomb. I'm curious to whether you guys believe it was a worked shoot or did he really go off script. I was at the show in Las Vegas, this being Monica, and when he was on the ramp, I was watching the crew behind the scenes more than Punk. They were running around with their like their heads were cut off while he was talking, grabbing headsets to listen to someone on the other side and telling the next person what was said. Having been there, I'm still conflicted over what really happened.
With this, it definitely was a worked shoot in the way that they knew Punk was going to go out there to air his grievances. But I don't think they knew at all what he was actually going to say. So they gave him the time to talk, but they had no idea what he was going to say. And I think when they cut him off for real there. Because it was getting a little heavy. But they wanted to give him time to really say how he felt, and obviously it worked out really well. So it's somewhere in between, but really leaning towards the off script.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, the way that Punk himself told the story was that he was just given time to go out there, air his grievances. He made like little notes for himself on these are the points I want to hit. And then, yeah, like Ryan said, I think they did legitimately cut him off at the point when they did because it was getting a little too real.
Yeah, I believe he actually mentioned there was he had like a cue for the guys, or somebody had some kind of cue where the moment he talked about Vince was like, okay, so now cut me off. I'm done with my thing. And obviously it was a work shoot because he was still talking about walking out of Money in the Bank as the WWE champion. So he was still out there as the character that was going to have a match. He could have easily just gone, whatever, I'm going to win, spoilers. But no, he was still part of that. But it is crazy how that has been. That was 5 years ago, and that is something that people to this day, it's now whenever there's a shoot, quote unquote, people refer to it as a pipe bomb. Yeah. So more so than the event itself, he created something that to this day we still see the result for.
To steal a Michael Cole buzz line, it affected the long-term history of the WWE. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Jarrett Q, who asks, what are your thoughts on the Talk is Jericho podcast about Chris Benoit? Now, Ryan, you have listened to this podcast, yes?
Yep, I just listened to it before we recorded. So it's very, very interesting, and I recommend anyone who's curious about this situation to go listen to it.
So what is the podcast?
So he interviews Nancy Benoit's sister, Sandy.
Yeah, Sandra. Yeah.
Yeah, Sandra, who was, very much, knew Chris and obviously knew Nancy, and was, she just kind of told her recallings of, her life with Nancy as a wrestler, and manager, valet, all of that. And then like meeting Chris and all of this, and like everything leading up to the events of, the Chris Benoit tragedy, the Benoit family tragedy. And it starts off very lighthearted of her just talking about her sister and like what it was like kind of being related to someone in the wrestling business and what that is all like. And then even talking about Chris in a positive manner about, obviously before anything, any signs of like bad things happening. And then it gets very, very heavy in the second half where she kind of goes through the process of just like she felt like he was becoming more and more paranoid and he was taking different routes to the gym, and always wanted to, he wanted to take her car sometimes, and like some things were just off about him leading up to the events. And but it's like I give her so much credit. She keeps it together the entire time, even though she's talking about like losing her nephew and her sister, and she's obviously been through a lot, and you feel like you really get to know her listening to this, and she seems like a genuinely like great person. And the fact that she kind of has some separation between, not that you can ever forgive Chris Benoit for what he did, but she knows that something was off. Like, she knew that he loved his family and loved his kids, and that something catastrophic was going on inside him to cause all of this, and that she kind of has a separation between the man he was and the man he became. And instead of, a lot of people would just immediately be like, I hate them, they're a monster, I will never forgive them. And I give her so much credit for not just immediately dismissing that and being sort of open-minded, not that he should be forgiven for it, but that she's not just outright dismissive. So yeah, it's a very good listen.
Yeah, I only started listening to it just before we recorded. I've listened to about 20 minutes, so it's still there, where she's talking about Nancy getting into the business at just 15 years old. You get this really cool ride that I personally didn't know, because I didn't really see Nancy Benoit a lot in wrestling. She was a woman in ECW. She did a ton of stuff, but really listening to this interview based on what you've said, Ryan, right? Because I haven't listened to all of it. It's like a roller coaster, because you get to not just know about what happened or the things around it, but, these are people that have relationship problems. That, Nancy was originally with Kevin Sullivan and then with Benoit, and just all these sorts of crazy things. And you have to commend her, right? She's talking about her sister being murdered, and there's a topic about concussions where I know you said it's unforgivable, and for almost anybody, it's not forgivable ever. But you also wonder, like, how much of Benoit was there, if you know what I mean, when that happened, given the concussions, given everything.
Well, the one thing she does get into that's very interesting is that, obviously, she doesn't think, they said his brain looked like, the whatever research center researched his brain said it was equivalent to like an 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient. But she was saying, he was still very sharp in the fact that, like, not like someone with dementia. But she kind of chalked it up to, her theory was it was a combination of a lot of things that all kind of came to this perfect storm, where he had been taking a lot of medication. There was a lot of wrestlers in his life, not just Eddie, that had died recently, and he was getting more and more paranoid that, like, he was next. Basically, she said she felt like he was getting more worried about his own mortality based on just how many of his friends were dying, and just personal life issues.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff.
And then also he probably, as Jericho theorized, had some form of CTE, where you see, NFL stars like Junior Seau who have, started acting paranoid and then end up committing suicide and things like that. So it's just all of these things coming together that, and she goes into detail a lot about him winning the championship at WrestleMania actually put a lot of pressure on him, that it started to get to him. Like, it was a lot, like, in a lot of ways, it was kind of like the wrestling business, almost as much as he loved it, it kind of destroyed him, as far as everyone he loved who died because, wrestling and, the way wrestlers treated their bodies and things like that, to the pressures of becoming a bigger star and things like that. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I don't personally want to comment too much as I haven't listened to the interview, but it does sound like a very fascinating listen that I will definitely check out.
I think the last comment here is that at the end of the day, we just, you just heard, and I'm still on the way of listening to Nancy Benoit's sister, we are never going to get the exact reason why what happened. There are scientific things. Thanks to that, we got a lot of research. So, between all the negativity, we got to think about something positive. Maybe some things have come out in research that will allow things like this to never happen again or happen less, because way too much bad shit's happening in the world right now. We don't even need to get to that. But let's just sort of move on, And Benoit was one of my favorite wrestlers in WCW, so it's always weird. I was watching War Games 97 this weekend, which is a terrible match. Just don't watch it. Just don't watch it. It sucked. It was horrible. But Benoit was in it, and he was one of my favorites in WCW. So it sucks to hear this stuff still to this day.
Indeed. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from both Cameron H. and Going for the Vin.
Oh.
They ask, if you guys each could sign one free agent to either Raw or SmackDown after the draft, who would it be and why? Kurt Angle, Goldberg, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Carlito, or Karma?
Okay, so one apiece. So I get to pick one for Raw and one for SmackDown, or do we get to two? Do we have to pick a brand?
It says Raw or SmackDown, so let's pick a brand, a person and a brand.
Okay, well, I would say let's extend. Let's have Ryan sort of pick the brand he wants. You were the Raw GM in our draft video, so how about you do Raw, I do SmackDown, and then Ryan, you get
the wild
WWE
card.
CW. You get WWE CW, man.
Oh, joy.
Yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
Who would I pick here? It's actually really tough.
Is it?
But,
Is it?
all right, I guess I will take Carlito. I have my concerns that, sometimes he could be a little unmotivated. And, that was a problem in WWE where he just got to a point where he just didn't care. But as far as who, I'd want someone who, Kurt Angle and Goldberg are ancient. Let's be real, guys. And Carlito's not even that much of a young guy anymore, But I feel like he's got the charisma. He has the talent. If he puts his mind to it, I know he's a fantastic superstar. So I'd pick Carlito.
Okay, so I am the GM of SmackDown. Yes, I get to go. SmackDown, number one announcer. So with SmackDown, really the only option I would go for here is Kurt Angle. I never really liked MVP very much. Shelton, I would say maybe. If I don't know how old Shelton is now. Carlito, just no. Said by a Puerto Rican. So yeah, my pick would be Kurt Angle.
See, my pick for Raw would not be the flashiest pick, but I think it is the most solid pick, and that is MVP. Because he has all of the tools. He has the charisma. He has the wrestling ability. He's just a solid core. He wasn't the best in his run, but there was tons of room for improvement. When MVP was on, he was on. Go look back at some of his feuds with Matt Hardy and the Brothers of Destruction. It was all very good stuff, and I think MVP is somebody that could be built on. It's not Goldberg, it's not Kurt Angle. Those are the flashy picks, but you're not gonna get a lot of mileage out of Kurt Angle and Bill Goldberg opposed to a couple matches. So MVP, there's your answer. Thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Barnaballs Balls, who asks, what is your favorite top rope move?
It used to be the Swanton Bomb growing up. Then Neville came around and upped it. I mean, obviously I like and then the Shooting Star Press kind of became the new Swanton Bomb.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Shooting Star Press kind of became the new Swanton Bomb. And then Neville comes around with the freaking Red Arrow, and he just trumps everyone. So that's why I got to go with Neville's Red Arrow.
For me, I actually got to go pretty simple. It's always been my favorite top rope move. It's not a diving move in the sense where it's like a swanton. It is the Dragon Rana, or the Dragon Rana. A couple of guys have done it, and it is basically, for those that have not seen it, picture the Molly go round that Molly Holly used to do, but instead of just falling forward, they go back. So it's like a Frankensteiner. So Hurricane Rana into a pin, but they do a flip from the top and then do the second flip into the pin Terrible explanation, probably. Dragon around and look it up. I've always loved that move. It's simple. It's awesome. And I wish I could pull it off, but probably can't. Would break my neck.
Start practicing, man.
Indeed. I find this question difficult to answer just because I'm not a big fan of the super flashy, like flip. I'm not a fan of flippy shit, basically. So, I don't know. If I had to choose like a move along the lines of a Swanton Bomb 450 splash, I would have to go with the Shooting Star Press, just because there are people that have just done it so well. The one that comes to mind is the Shane McMahon Shooting Star Press, just how beautifully Shane was able to do it. But honestly,
what about the Frog Splash? Or maybe you're talking about not being a fan of the flashy ones.
I mean, like the Frog
Eddie
Class, like a very solid Frog Splash just landed on the dude. It looks good. It looks like it hurts. That's a good move. But from like diving move aside, my favorite move that happens off of the top rope would be Seth Rollins' current superplex into Falcon's Arrow. That is just the coolest move of anybody on the roster. I love it to absolute death.
Good pick.
Oh, I know. That's why I picked it. But thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Kisareth Studios, who asks, how do you guys feel about one or two of the KSW Monday Night crew joining you for the podcast one of these days?
So Kisareth Studios is actually a game developing studio that they've been open to us about the fact that when they code and they're working, they'll listen to the show. So shout out to all of you. Hello out there. Are you good? Okay, awesome. So regarding the show itself, the podcast right now with the format that we do have, we're very shy about adding other people to the podcast. Never say never, but that is where the Square Round Table comes in. And we're going to go into a little bit more details next week. So yes, that is a teaser to things that are going to be happening down the line. But if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll see we're being more open about including people into those single discussion type format videos. So anybody listening, if you enjoy a wrestling YouTuber, somebody in the business, somebody that you think it would fit the style. We like to be serious, not overly serious. We like to have a good time. Drop us a tweet, comment, email, whatever you want to let us know. And Kisareth, like that's a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. We're open to definitely working with other content creators. And SRT's just, it's a lot easier to not only work around our schedule, but your schedule as well for those types of recordings. So that's kind of why we do that the way it is. We like we said, the way we have the podcast now very much works for us, and never say never, but right now we like the way things are.
Indeed. Couldn't say it any better myself. So thank you for the question, and if whoever keeps clicking these questions in the Google Doc clicks the current question one more time, I might go postal. Our next question comes from TMK Tanner, who asks, who's that jumping out the sky?
Seamus why? Damn, I thought it would sound better, but it's not Mysterio. Who is that jumping out the sky right now?
REY Mysterio, here we go.
When the girl, okay, what were the lyrics? When the girls pass out, when the guys pass out, the girls flip out.
Something about tapping out off the top rope. Now here we go. Next thing you know, they'll be on the flow. What you gonna do when you're on your back? Something about a body slam, goddamn, you're whack. It goes something like that. So, have you guys seen that video about Chris Jericho, or that's making the rounds, with Chris Jericho reading the lyrics to his own theme?
Yes.
It has come to make me realize that wrestling theme lyrics make no goddamn sense.
No, man, like, I'm actually going to bring up, something started playing in my background. Wait, okay, so this motivated me to look up Rey Mysterio's 619 theme song, the second one he had. And something that always annoyed me in that, they swear a lot in that theme song, but because it's in Spanish,
well, they dropped the A word, I know, a couple of times.
Like they say cabron, which would be mother shut your mouth. Keith, and they say that, and it's just weird how little things like that happened. And yeah, like I guess if you say things in Spanish, you get away with it. I mean, hell, I've gotten away with it here if it wasn't for these two meddling kids. So yeah. Keith has me banned from speaking any more Spanish, so I'll leave it at that, cabrón.
It's true. That was an infraction. You'll be getting a ticket in the mail anytime in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Please pay it in a timely fashion.
Damn it. Can't I just get to spend it for 30 days?
We can talk. So thank you for the question. Our final question of the show comes from Ahmed M., who asks, when do you think Carmella will debut?
If they end up doing 2 women's divisions, I think it's going to be very, very soon. There's a good chance she could actually just get drafted. So I would say as early as the draft, if not, probably by the start of next year, she'll be called up, I think.
Yeah, I believe that at some point next year, I think it'll be it, because NXT in some form is going to take a huge hit thanks to the draft, right? Like
Absolutely.
Right now we're in this transitional period where, if you notice, and like I guess this can be sort of a subtopic, which I tend to go off. Okay, let me just answer this. So yes, next year. You answer, Keith, and then I'll bring up my point before we get more sidetracked.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. You can there's almost, if you look at NXT, there's a list you can make of who's in line for a call-up, and you can almost number that list. As far as the NXT women go, I think that I can think of at least 4 or 5 people that are going to be called up before Carmella. I believe that Carmella is going to have a run with the NXT Divas Championship, Women's Championship, before she goes to the main roster. So I think that's what we should be looking for before thinking about her getting called up.
Yeah, that should be what happens. And what I wanted to bring up here is that, you know, that this is going to be a huge change for NXT, right? But look at a guy like Bobby Roode. He has yet to make his official NXT television debut, like on a match standpoint. But if you go by social media, he's been part of the roster for about a month. He's been wrestling nonstop, and they've changed the way they go about these things. It's almost like the TV show is a bonus, but they use social media as a platform to stream live on Facebook. They did that with the Cruiserweight Classic, the inaugural thing with D-Bry and Ronaldo. And now with NXT, they're doing that. So I applaud them for trying out something completely different in there. But NXT, it's for better or worse. Hopefully for better, it's going to change. And
it's going
Prince
to be
Puma may go in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the thing that has the most dramatic change attached to it from the draft. NXT the week before the draft and the week after the draft. If the taping before the draft and the taping after the draft, I should say, are going to be very different products.
The Great Purge of NXT.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, the draft, man, it's getting closer, right? Like, it is officially less than a month. We got how many weeks? Let's see here. We got 1. We got a 3. We got 3 weeks to go before the draft happens. That is a Tootsie Roll reference, but that's going to be happening. And like,
everything changes that day.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know what are we going to talk about, like, the week after, right? Because I'm not even concerned about that episode of NXT, of that week of wrestling of WWE. It's the week after where it's like episode 1. How does that even look like? But thank you to everybody for sending in the incredible questions. One thing we forgot to announce is that if you like to hang out with us on Twitch, you know, we don't use the Byte That channel enough, but this Friday, Keith and I are going to be streaming at the Press Pause TV channel Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be playing, 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
I need to write that down so I make sure I'm there.
Yes, I sent you a message, so I'll just...
And you think constantly. I read those?
You said yes, so hey, the promos are already out, so you better be there.
I remember those?
Yes, hopefully. So hopefully Keith is going to be there. We're going to be playing some Dawn of War 2. It's a strategy game. We do that with Press Pause, which Nicole, my wife, is the person that's working on the brand new ByteThat.com website. She worked on the first one. So shout out to Nicole if you want a website. She's there. Like, let us know. We can hook you up. Like, save 5% off by using the coupon Blame Keith. So for everything else.
Is that really a coupon?
No, but we should.
We should. Let's talk. Let's talk
You can
after
use
the
that
podcast.
picture of him with his hands underneath his head.
I need a T-shirt of that picture of Keith. You look so cute in it, man.
I always look cute.
Okay,
Well,
Ryan, just do your thing.
So we would
man.
like to thank you guys for tuning into another edition of the Byte That podcast. Now, as we've said, next week is episode 150. It's going to be a jam-packed episode. It's going to be a great time. We got some big announcements. We got the new Byte That website rolling out, so it's going to be really cool. So we hope that you will join us next week for that. We're going to do some listener appreciation. Appreciate all of you guys who listen to us. So it's going to be a fun time. And as always, hey, I got to remind you guys, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you already have, don't hit it, because then that's bad. So only if you haven't done it before. This is sounding a little weird now. But
hit that. Hit that.
Hit that. Hit that. Hit that. Anyway.
You're on your own, buddy. Keep going.
So yeah, we got some SRTs coming up real soon. As Juan said, one's going to be on entrances. Is that going up this week?
Tentatively.
Can I get a confirmation on that?
Maybe. Somewhat, maybe.
Okay. I am going to unbox something that is 15 years old, though. I can confirm that.
Okay.
This is what happens
So that
when
is
things are
coming
not
up
on the
this
agenda.
week. So we get, regardless, on the Byte That YouTube channel, you're getting 3 videos a week. Okay, that is our promise to you guys. This is going totally off the rails. Social media.
Just write it off. Just go right to the end.
Social media: Twitter @ByteThatCast,
Go
Facebook
home.
Byte That
We
Cast,
don't want
Instagram
you
Byte That. This is the
anymore.
worst outro of all time. All right, cool. I don't know what they're doing, guys. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
That was awesome. That was awesome. This is podcasting.